Let's start with a really important question. When you use AI to code, what is it actually doing for you? Is it just finishing your sentences, giving you a few suggestions, or is it something more? Is it a real partner, an autonomous worker that you can hand off entire, complex jobs to? That difference right there is the huge shift we're seeing, and it's at the very heart of Google's wild new experiment.
And that experiment is called Antigravity. It's a brand new platform built from the ground up to be agent first, and it wants to completely change the way you and I interact with our tools. So today, we're going to dig in and figure out if it's just a buggy mess or if this is a genuine glimpse into the future of how we all build software.
Here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll talk about what makes this a totally new way of coding. Then, we'll take a look at its mission control center for AI agents. After that, we're going to get into the messy, frustrating reality of using a preview tool. We'll cover the developer community's verdict, and finally, we'll ask the big question, what does this all mean for the future of our jobs?
All right, let's jump right in. The first thing you have to understand is that Antigravity isn't just another version of VS Code with a slightly smarter autocomplete. The core idea here from Google is a fundamental move away from simple AI assistants.
Think of it like this. For the past few years, AI assistants have been like a helpful colleague peeking over your shoulder, right? They offer a suggestion here, finish a line of code there. But an agentic platform like Antigravity, that's totally different. The AI is now your employee. You give it a task, and it can plan the project, use its own tools like a browser or an image generator, and see the job through from start to finish, all on its own. It's a worker, not just a helper.
And this whole new way of thinking has a name. Agent-first development. It means the entire workflow is built around the idea that the AI isn't just there to help you out. No, it's an autonomous actor. You give it a high-level goal, and it's expected to plan the steps, build the thing, test it, and even fix its own mistakes without you holding its hand. Suddenly your job starts to look less like a builder and more like an architect or a manager.
So, how did Google actually build this thing? Well, they've structured it around what they call 3 surfaces. You've got the editor, which will look super familiar if you've ever used VS Code. Then you have an integrated Chrome browser that the AI agent can actually control to test its own work. And then you have the star of the show, the agent manager. And that agent manager brings us to the most innovative and, frankly, the coolest part of this whole platform. This is your mission control center for all your AI-driven projects.
So, to see what this thing can really do, one developer gave it this prompt. Now, on the surface, it sounds simple, right? But think about it. Building a game clone involves game logic, physics, creating assets, handling user input. It's actually a super complex task for an AI. A perfect test.
And the results were, well, they were kind of mind-blowing. The agent didn't just spit out some code. First, it created a whole project plan. Then, and this is the wild part, it realized it needed images, so it just generated its own sprites for the fish and the coins. It wrote all the working code in a game framework called Phaser. And when the developer pointed out that the images had white backgrounds, the agent just went back, fixed the transparency issue, and updated the code. That's not just coding. That's problem solving.
So let's just recap the superpowers we just saw. This agent can take a complex, one-shot request and run with it. It can generate its own assets out of thin air. It uses that built-in browser to test its own work and even records a video of the test to show you. All of this is bundled up into what Google calls artifacts, plans, code changes, recordings that prove the work is done. It's all about building trust in the AI.
Okay, that all sounds absolutely incredible. Science fiction, right? But you knew there was a but coming, didn't you? This is still a preview tool, and the day-to-day reality of using it right now is, well, it's a bit of a disaster.
I think this quote from Fabian Frank Werner on the Dev Community blog just nails it. You see this incredible, promising future, but then you try to actually use it, and it can be one of the most maddening experiences you've ever had. The future is here, it's just really, really broken.
And if you look at what actual developers are saying, you see this feeling everywhere. Take this Reddit user, News5555, who points out a massive problem. The agent just gives up. Mid-task with no warning, it just stops, says failure, and you have to restart the whole thing. It completely kills your momentum.
And it gets worse. Another user, NeonHD, brings up 2 more deal breakers. First, file corruption. An AI tool that randomly destroys your code is, well, it's a nightmare. And second, the performance is just not there. The agent can get stuck thinking for ages, which totally defeats the whole point of trying to speed up your workflow.
So the list of frustrations just keeps on growing. You've got the constant crashes and freezes, the file corruption. On top of that, tons of popular extensions, like the one for Svelte, are just completely broken. And then there are these baffling little things, like you can't use the arrow keys to navigate the file explorer in a code editor. It's the kind of stuff that just drives you insane.
And you know, all these futuristic bells and whistles come at a pretty steep price. Developers are reporting that this thing absolutely demolishes their battery life, and they're seeing serious input lag, even on powerful machines like a MacBook Pro. You can literally feel a delay between when you type and when the letters appear, all because the agent is churning away in the background. It is a beast.
So, we have this amazing vision on one hand, and this frustrating, buggy reality on the other. Where does that leave us? Let's get to the verdict for developers who are wondering if they should use this today. If you take the temperature of the community, you get a really mixed bag. About a third of users are just blown away by the potential. They see the power. But the majority, a full half of them, are just bogged down by the bugs and the terrible performance. And for a solid 20%, the constant crashes make it totally unusable for any kind of real work.
It really all boils down to this simple trade-off. In the Pro column, you get free access to a cutting-edge model like Gemini 3 and a truly innovative new workflow. That's amazing. But in the Con column, it's incredibly buggy, it's a resource hog, and it is absolutely not stable enough for professional work on a deadline.
And that leads us to a pretty clear recommendation, for now at least. If you're a hobbyist or you want to play around with the future on a side project, you should absolutely download it. It's fascinating. But if you're a professional developer with deadlines and clients, you really can't risk switching from your stable, reliable tools just yet.
But for our last section, let's do something important. Let's try to look past the bugs. Let's zoom out and think about the bigger picture here. What does an experiment like Antigravity really mean for the future of our industry?
Because here's the thing. Even if Antigravity itself ends up in the famous Google graveyard, the ideas it's testing are incredibly powerful. That agent manager, that concept of a developer acting as a high-level manager for a team of AI agents, that idea might be the real revolution here. Antigravity is a messy but very compelling proof of concept for a whole new way to work.
And all of this leaves us with one final, pretty provocative question. Is the future of our job less about writing thousands of lines of code and more about defining goals, reviewing plans, and managing the autonomous agents who do the building for us? Antigravity might be flawed today, but it forces every single one of us to seriously consider that possibility. And that right there is a conversation worth having.